Hey everybody, and welcome back to the next episode of Dialing In for our Line 6 Helix, and this one is going to be a dialing in for firmware 3.1 and showing off one of my absolute new favorite effects models that we've been given in 3.1, which is the retro reel modulation effects block. It's an effects block that's going to simulate as if our guitar has been recorded onto a reel-to-reel tape player, tape deck. And then we have all these parameters we can adjust to give it real character and really add some beautiful fatness and some really interesting qualities to it. So without further ado, let's jump over to HX Edit and take a look what this does. So here we have retro reel, and we have all these parameters here. We have wow and flutter, saturation, low cut, high cut, tape speed, level, and texture. We're going to go through these one at a time and kind of see what effects they have, and I think a lot of you folks will find that this is a really useful effects block, more than you might have at first thought when you first maybe read about it or saw it. So first of all, when we're playing through a tape, a lot of times you hear people talk about wow and flutter, and that's going to basically be the kind of warbly, unsteady sound that a tape machine can add to the sound. So we could get these kind of funny time and pitch kind of variances, right? So this is where the modulation part of this is going to come in. We can get this kind of sound of almost just like in and out of tune and speeding up and slowing down a little bit. The saturation is going to be how much distortion or overdrive we are going to get out of this tape machine. If we crank this way up, we're going to get a lot of overdrive, and if we have it way down, we may not even notice any at all, or we won't notice any at all. Low and high cut, very similar to any other effects block that has low and high cut. We're going to be able to dial out the highs or dial out the lows, get more of a lo-fi sound maybe by dialing and darkening the sound up with the high cuts and whatnot. The tape speed is going to mimic which speed the tape is going across the heads of the tape machine. So we have everything from 7.5 inches per second, or IPS, 15 IPS, 30 IPS. And we have our level control, which is going to be the output level of the retro reel block. And texture is going to be an EQ that kind of is applied to the tape, but it's going to be dependent on the saturation control. With the saturation at 0 or lower settings, the texture is not even going to be noticeable. As we get higher up with the saturation, the texture is going to affect kind of the tightness or looseness of the saturation that we're getting, all right? And we'll be able to kind of see that and EQing it a bit. And I got this information from my good friend Eric Klein over at Line 6 about that texture control. All right, so let's take a look and see what we have here. I'm gonna turn this off for now. I have a US Princess up here with nothing else, just a 110 US Princess cab with the 121 ribbon mic on it. I do have the new dynamic hall reverb after too. Beautiful reverb. So nice little tone going on there. Now, I'm going to actually turn the reverb off for now. We'll put that back on later, but let's take a look at the retro reel. So I'm going to bring the wow and flutter and the saturation down. I'm going to put the tape speed at 30 inches per second, and I'm just going to bring this back up to 0 dB. I had that a little lower as I was playing around with it. So really, at these settings, we probably shouldn't notice a huge difference. Let's listen with it off. You still sort of get a little bit of beef out of this, which is really neat. I don't know if I'm hearing just the volume jump. Let's bring the level back on that. I'm definitely hearing a beautiful little change to it. Very subtle, but amazing what just at these settings it does. Let's put the reverb back on and take a listen to this. I'm really, really liking what this is doing to the sound. It just gives it a little bit of fatness and warmth to it. Very subtle, but it is noticeable, especially in playing it. I'm going to really like this effect sort of at the end of a signal chain with really turn on subtly. Now, a lot of folks might say, well, what about where we place this? Well, here's the problem. I'm going to bring up the saturation now, okay? I'm going to go all the way up to 10 with it. At this point here, it's fine, but if I go all the way to 10 with the saturation, you hear what happens. We get some pretty nasty distortion. So if I was to take that with those same settings and put that before the amp though, so that we can have the speaker cab or the stock cab kind of soften that up, we could actually bring the level down a little bit here. Bring that reverb back in. We could use this almost as a bit of an overdrive pedal in a way, right? Bring that saturation back. So I would say if I was going to use that after the amp, I would want to be careful with my saturation control and not go too heavy on it. But we still can. You feel it start to compress a little bit. This is such a beautiful plugin. Just warms things up. Now we can still push this. There, anything past maybe 5, I'm thinking we're going to start getting some artifacts we don't like. So anything after 5, I would probably place that before the amp. Anything under 5, you could get away with it at the end, just to warm up the whole signal. So let's leave that around 4 now. And let's go to our wow and flutter. I'm going to crank this all the way up. So we can hear that sort of time and pitch variations here. That's obviously a high setting. Let's go down a little bit with it. So a little goes a long way with this. Even if we brought it to about 1, there it is with the reel off. So we kind of know what that does. And again, higher settings on that are going to be more for special effects. The lower settings are going to be nice just to give a little shimmer to the sound. Now our low cut, obviously if I bring that all the way up, now obviously that's extreme again. And then we could also bring a low cut or a high cut in there as well. Get more of that, you know, telephone type of effect. So again, we can decide what we want to do with that. Let me just bring that back. Now, the tape speed, 30 inches per second, 15 inches per second, 7.5 inches per second. The slower the tape speed, sort of the fatter the sound is going to be with a little more distortion. So even at these settings, you can really hear it in the bottom end. Almost a little bit of a looser feel on that. Now, if I was to put this in front of the amp again, crank my saturation up quite high. There's a little bit of a bottom boost to a low mid boost from the 7.5 inches per second. I would say that sort of the 30 inches per second is going to be a little more true to the original sound, and it's going to kind of almost degrade a little bit more, but not necessarily in a bad way, as we go down on the tape speed. So 7.5 inches per second is going to give us a real beefy tone. Now with the saturation all the way up, let's take a look and see what this texture does. So with the texture on 0, very interesting stuff going on there. Now let's play with the tape speed. Some very nice tones here. Really, really nice stuff. So if we bring that saturation down though all the way, you'll notice that the texture has much less effect, if any at all. Okay, so what can we do for some nice settings on this? Well, if I was going to put this, let's say after, just to warm up a tone and kind of keep it maybe as like an always on type of an effect, I might go with something really low on the wow and flutter, maybe somewhere on the saturation around 2 or 3, tape speed maybe 15 inches per second, and not really sure how much the texture is going to make a difference here. I do feel a difference there, and I kind of like the higher settings on the texture. So maybe go here up to about 6. Let's see if we can get this kind of a unity gain. Very close on and off. So here's the tone without the retro reel on. It's gooey, it's compressed a little bit, it just sounds like it's been recorded to tape at these settings. This is a wonderful plugin. I can see myself using this on almost everything to various degrees. It's funny, when you turn it off, it almost gets a little anemic sounding, and it used to sound kind of like it was really good. So the speed setting, the tape speed setting is really important here. I'm really digging this 15 inches per second. I could almost see this replacing me putting a compressor at the end of the chain now. I'm really liking it that much. Let's add a little bit of reverb in there. Kind of brings out a nice bloom in the pick attack. Lots of verb. Really nice stuff. Probably my favorite new feature on the Helix. And if the Helix wasn't good enough, I think this just raised it numerous levels. What a killer effects block. I hope that answers your questions as to how it works, and I hope you heard some of those subtle differences. Please go back and maybe listen. Make sure you're listening on a good set of headphones or a good set of speakers so you can hear those subtleties in here. I hope that was helpful. I hope you guys get as much enjoyment out of this block as I do. I can see myself using this constantly. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like the video, share it with anybody who you think would get use out of watching it, and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more content. Thanks again for tuning in. Ciao for now.